The topic of this video is how many calories does a horse need? Now, that is going to very much depend on the size of the horse and the activity on a horse. So I'm going to start with the basics, the average, if you will. These are all done in kilograms, but I have tried to convert them over to something that you might understand. So a 500 kilogram horse, or roughly an 1,100 pound horse, a 1,100 pound horse, would on average need to consume roughly 16,700 calories per day. That is if with a maintenance horse, that is basically just a horse standing in a pasture, in a stall, something like that. No exercise, it's not growing, it's not doing anything like a breeding stallion or a broodmare or anything like that. Now, to put that in perspective, you can go as extreme as a horse that is in very heavy exercise, needing almost 40,000 calories per day. So 16,000 for a normal average size horse to something that is in very heavy exercise, almost 40,000 calories. So it's going to vary very much depending on what the horse is actually doing. So that's why you'll see some people start to feed their horse a certain amount, something changes, and then their horse loses weight or their horse gains weight. It's because that matters. Just like in humans, it can matter a lot. Now, let's put that in perspective. What are some average things that you could feed that horse, and how many pounds would you need to feed? So on average, if you get immature, very high quality premium alfalfa, it is going to have 1,190 calories per pound. So convert that over to what would a horse have to eat in a day. The average horse that we talked about, the 1,100 pound horse that's not doing anything, would have to eat 14 pounds of very high premium alfalfa per day to be sustained. 14 pounds if that's the only thing they're eating. Contrast that with a very active horse that we talked about that needs almost 40,000 calories, and you would need to feed just under 30 pounds of the same premium alfalfa. So that gives you a little bit of a comparison there, how much alfalfa you would need to feed. And that is very premium alfalfa. Alfalfa can be all different levels of quality. And finally, what about just a grass hay? Mixed grass is 995 calories per pound on average. These are just averages, about 1,000 calories per pound. So for that maintenance horse, you would have to feed 16.8 pounds per day for just an average horse, which most horses would be able to be sustained out in a pasture situation. And then for that very active horse, you would have to feed 35 pounds per day of that mixed grass for a very active, very heavy exercised horse. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a perspective of how many calories a horse eats. It depends on if the horse is growing. It depends on if the horse is a breeding stallion and is in very active work. It depends on if the horse is a broodmare and maybe it's in the last trimester of pregnancy. Then their calorie intake will begin to almost triple after they have a foal. So it depends on what the horse is doing, but those are just some averages for you to think about.